this Bigfoot researcher named Ralph. Now, Ralph had spent his whole life looking for Bigfoot, and he said, in all these years, he had never had an actual encounter. And he said that was really all he wanted more than anything was to experience firsthand Bigfoot. Now, he said he had heard about some Bigfoot sightings in northern Wisconsin near this Native American reservation. And so he made his way out to this area to stay for a couple of weeks. So he said when he got there, he met with this Native American man who knew the woods around this area pretty well. And he was talking with this guy, if I want to see, what you guys described as Bigfoot, like where would I go? And so this guy, gets out a map and he says, I would check in this area and this area. Well, as Ralph is looking at this map, he notices there's an area that's circled and kind of crossed off. And Ralph's like, what is in this area? And he said, no, I don't talk about that. And he said, well, is there something there? And he says, look, do not go there. And he said, what do you mean? He said, that's where the young ones live. He said, what do you mean young ones? He said, that's where the young ones of their kind, that is their home. They stay there. And it's a very dangerous place. Do not go to this place. So Ralph's like, okay, yeah, I'll stay away from there. But in his mind, he's thinking, for sure, I'm going to go and check this place out. So he sets off on this expedition through the woods. And sure enough, he makes his way onto the map to the area that's crossed out. So he said he gets there during the day. And, he starts looking around this area, setting up equipment. He doesn't have any experiences. And he's like, maybe he was just trying to scare me because, there is nothing here. I'm looking for signs of Bigfoot. I don't see any footprints, markings, anything that would indicate that he would be in this area. But he decides, I'll stay a night and see what happens. So nightfall comes and it's completely dark. He has nothing but a flashlight at this time, and he is just kind of sitting around waiting for something to happen. Well, in his backpack, he had brought this recording of a baby crying because there was this theory that Bigfoot may respond to children crying. So he plays this recording on this CD player he has, and you could hear a baby crying throughout the woods. And he said, it was such a still, calm night that it probably was traveling at a very, very good distance. And he said as soon as he puts this sound on, right, he can hear something crashing through the woods, and it's coming right towards his direction. And he said in various other places around him, he could hear these crashing sounds. And then he proceeded to hear these really loud screams. And he said at this moment, he started to panic because he's like, oh no, what did I do? I'm out here all alone. This is crazy. So he said he got down on the ground and he just started bawling. And he's like, please, I'm sorry I came here. Please just leave me alone, please. And he said the screams just kept getting worse and worse. And the only thing he could think of was just to walk on his hands and knees and kind of crawl out of this area. So he began crawling, and he said all around him he could just hear these things screaming and moving and running by him. And this whole time, it's completely dark, he doesn't want to turn on his flashlight and see what is out there. So he said he just kept crawling and crawling. And he said the next thing he knows, he felt what he thought was a weird rock. And he said he turned on the flashlight, and he could see that he was grabbing a very large, hairy foot. So he hurried up, turns off his flashlight, and he said he got up and he just took off running. And he said whatever this was, it just chased him the whole way, but it never went up to him or physically hurt him. It was just trying to scare him. And he said after he had made it a few miles away from this place, everything quieted down. And he said after that, he knew that Bigfoot was real, and he knew never to go back to that area again. This guy named Tim, and he lived in North Carolina, worked at this Walmart that was situated in the Appalachian Mountains. Now, Tim worked third shift, and he said at this Walmart specifically, a lot of strange things would happen at night. They would hear footsteps running by them. They'd turn around, no one would be there. Sometimes their pallets of boxes would fall over by themselves. They would hear people talking with a staticky voice over the intercom. But Tim says he remembers specifically there was this woman that he worked with, and she was this good employee who showed up on time and worked really hard. But he said one night she was stocking the shelves and something scared her. She came running into the break room, freaking out. And she claimed that when she was stocking the shelves, she sees a man at the end of the aisle. She said this man was wearing a black hat and some kind of black cape, and he was just staring at her. And she said he then proceeded to run towards her, and she took off running all the way to the break room. So the manager tells everyone to stop what they're doing and search the store for this man in a hat and a cape. They look through the entire store, they do not find him. Now, at this time, the security cameras were not turned on. So the manager says, you know what, I'm going to keep the security cameras on to keep an eye on this employee and make sure this doesn't happen again. About a week later, she has the same encounter, and she's totally freaked out. So the manager then goes to the security cameras, and when he looks at it, he sees this employee in the aisle, and it's like she notices someone's there, and she takes off running. But he can't see this other guy. So at the time, the manager thought, she's probably on something or losing her mind. Until one of the floor guys at night, who was this, level-headed guy, doesn't tell stories, goes to the manager and says, hey, I seen this weird guy with a hat and a cape, and I rode past him on the, floor machine, and when I turned, he was gone. And I kind of looked for him around the store. I couldn't find him. So the manager, being worried for this employee, started assigning another employee to help her stock her area. Well, this employee was with her one night, and he's on one aisle and she's on the aisle behind him. They're both stocking the shelves. When this employee hears her scream, he goes around the aisle to the other side. She's gone. He starts yelling her name, looking around. He can't find her. So then he goes and tells the manager. Well, the manager, he thinks, let's see if her car's still here. Maybe she quit and left. So they go out to the parking lot. Her vehicle was still there. So he goes back. He checks the security cameras. And to his surprise, he does not see that woman employee or anything else that entire night. It was like she wasn't even there. So the next day, he's expecting that this is going to be a big deal. There's going to be police and detectives and everybody there, except there's no one there except for these three men in these black suit and ties. And they sit down with him before they're start of the shift meeting. And they basically tell him, yeah, that employee no longer works here. She had a, addiction problem, and she's been located and we're taking care of it. Which he said, he didn't buy that story. He thought there was something weird about it because she didn't seem like that kind of person. And eventually he said all of the employees who witnessed that were one by one fired for just ridiculous reasons. And he said it was, never in the news. No one ever talked about it, but he had witnessed that happen at that Walmart. The story takes place near Joplin, Missouri. There was this man who had lived in this farmhouse for 24 years. And he said, one day it was starting to get late. He was finishing up some work in one of his fields. As he was on the